Closing the sale. Closing is obviously the most important part of the sales process because it determines whether the customer buys or not. You can be outstanding at developing customers. You can open doors with customers everywhere. You can make very effective presentations. But if you can't close, you can't sell. Closing persuades the customer to act. Human nature is to avoid making a decision or to put it off. By closing, you are persuading your customer to decide. In this power tip, we look at fundamentals of closing, when to close, types of closes, and what to do after you ask for the order. So let's consider some fundamentals of the closing process. First is the ABC principle. Always be closing. During your sales presentation, you should always be looking for the opportunity to close the sale. You should be subtle, because if you're too aggressive or you try to close too early, you run the risk of turning your customer off. Which brings us to a second and very important point. Monitor customer feedback. You need to carefully watch and listen to your customer for feedback on your presentation. What your customer tells you, as well as more subtle body language clues, will tell you when it's time to close. You also want to be confident during your presentation, but especially when you close. Always assume the customer will be buying. You want to be strong, with a positive attitude, but not arrogant. Above all, be relaxed. Finally, your close should not be an abrupt addition to your presentation. Rather, it should flow seamlessly and be a natural transition from your product discussion. So, when in your presentation do you close? That's the crucial question, and there is no easy answer. It all depends on your customer and how your presentation has gone. Here are some guidelines. Most importantly, you can't close until you have fully established the value of the product in your customer's mind. Trying to close too early is a recipe for failure. Until your customer fully understands the value and utility of the product, he or she is not going to buy. And, as mentioned earlier, interpreting customer language is critical. What your customer says is obviously important. Yes, that's something I could use. I do like that. That's impressive. All of these are positive signals. Negative comments can be just as obvious and are a signal that you need to overcome objections. And if the customer doesn't say anything, that can be a negative signal in itself. Body language is also important. Smiling, nodding the head, admiring the product, all are positive signals. Generally, it's a good idea to separate price from the close. You want to close at a point where the customer is up and feels very good about the product. So don't try to close immediately after discussing price. Move the conversation back to what the customer likes about the product. What makes the mood more positive and makes the customer more likely to respond favorably to your close. One of the most effective ways to close is with the use of trial closes. With trial closes, you get your customer to agree to a series of minor points. After several yes answers, the actual decision to buy is easier. There's a traffic light analogy. When you're driving, every time you see a green light, you continue down the road. With trial closes, every yes answer is a green light. So, you continue down the road to a close. But when you get a no or some negative response, that's a red light and you need to overcome the objection. Here's an example of trial closes with the SA8. Do you think it is important that the detergent also protect our clothes in addition to cleaning it? Would you like to use a detergent which also pre-treats the clothes? Would you like to have not only clean but also softer clothes after every wash? As for actually closing the customer, there is no set language to use. The right close to use depends on what you are comfortable saying, your customer, the product, and how your presentation has progressed. So, while there's no magic formula to close, let's look at some types of closes. First, the simplest and most direct close is the ask for it close. Nothing complicated here. You simply ask for the order. This is the one you seem to like the most. What do you say? Should I put this down as an order? Another type of close is the assumptive close. Rather than asking for the order, you assume the buyer has already made the decision to buy. Great. Is it okay if I order this for you? Actually, assuming the order is a good strategy for all kinds of closes. In the either-or close, you give the customer two options, both of which closes the sale. Would you like to try the trend color, warm or cool collection? In the third-party reference close, you boost the customer's confidence by noting they are not the first person to buy this item and that others who have made the purchase are very satisfied. You know, I have another customer who bought the Artistry Renewing Peel about a month ago. When I saw her last week, she said she loved it and her skin looked great. Why not go ahead and give it a try? The reflexive close only works when the customer asks a question that you interpret as a buying signal. You bounce the statement back to the customer and it becomes a close. I know how much you and your sister like that fragrance. Would you like me to put you down for 1 or 2 bottles? Once you've asked your closing question, be quiet. Silence is effective. It may seem a bit awkward, but this is the time for the customer to make a decision. So don't get in the way. There's an old saying, first person to talk takes the product. If you talk first, you'll have the product, not the customer. Listen to what your customer says and respond to any hesitations or objections. When your customer does say yes, write the order immediately. Any additional conversation you might have can only lead the customer to change his or her mind. Make the sale, then chit-chat. In summary, closing is a critical part of the sales process. You can't sell if you can't close. Remember ABC. Always be closing. And continually look for opportunities to close. Monitor your customer's feedback, verbal and non-verbal signals that he or she is ready to buy. Carefully time your close and make sure it's at a positive point in the presentation. Use the appropriate closing question, and once you have asked that question, let the customer respond and follow up appropriately. Finally, once the customer says yes, write the order immediately. As with any part of the sales process, practice makes perfect. Find the closing techniques that work best for you and continually refine them. The better you can close, the more you will sell.